After 10 years, 16 movies, and a very slow and painful death throughout all of 2023, the DCEU has perished, ending an entire era of comic book movies. Today, we gather to pay our respects. My name is Ren, and this is my review of Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Welcome back, DC fans. Thank you for joining me to what shall forever be known as the funeral service of the DCU to discuss Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, the sequel to the most unlikely success stories probably in the whole superhero genre, as Aquaman balances his duties as King of Atlantis and as a dad. Black Manta, still on a quest to avenge his father's death, becomes possessed by the power of the mythic Black Trident. To defeat this mighty foe, Aquaman must turn to his imprisoned brother Orm and forge an unlikely alliance in order to save Atlantis and the surface world. And as a frame of reference, you must know, not only have I been overall a fan of the DCU apart from 2 or 3 movies, I love the original Aquaman, as you can see from my ranking, which you should follow me on Letterboxd to see more of those. And there's my shameless plug for this video. And because I love the original Aquaman so much, I walked into Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom with trepidatious excitement, because it has been such a frustrating year for DC movies, and we've heard just how much this film has been reworked, redesigned, reshot. But what I will say for this film is that it was never designed to be a finale for the DCU or even the Aquaman franchise. And to this movie's credit, it doesn't bother itself with attempting to being any of those things. This is 100% purely focused on being an Aquaman sequel and not a movie that connects to an already dying cinematic universe. There's an ever-present strangeness to that never being acknowledged just because we are so hyper-aware of it, but narratively, it works wonders in the movie's favor. Mostly because, and trust me on this, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom is a film with plenty of issues of its own. For context, the entire first act in this film is so roughly collaged together, from the dialogue where not a single joke hits, validating all the complaints about comedy and humor ruining superhero movies, to the visuals where everyone looks disproportionate and not a lot of the visuals and angles make sense underwater, and even the storytelling, where they recap the entire first film so roughly as if it came out 30 years ago and it didn't actually make $1 billion. Every conceivable element in this film misses the mark. I was cringing and groaning and fearing I was in for rough sailing. Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom also features the most annoying needle drops of the year, which stands out all the more as a sore thumb when the score is so grandiose and epic. It immediately takes you out of the immersion of being in this adventure. And last but not least, if you're a fan of Black Manta like I was in the first film, he is done so dirty in the sequel. His storyline does a shameful disservice to the character, just acting as a vehicle to someone else who never really gets to play a big role in the film by the end. Yahya Abdul-Mateen's performance is nuanced and intense. He is excellent once again, but the character is consistently undermined from beginning to end. The dynamic between him and Arthur is never really taken advantage of just because there's this whole other character possessing him. It is one of the lamest villain tropes any story can have, and it's like Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom celebrates it. So with all those things, is this film truly terrible? I am recording this review before the Rotten Tomatoes score comes out, before any reactions go out. A lot of people are going to find this film to be terrible, and I can completely understand and see why. For me, however, what's most disappointing about such a paper-thin plot is that this film has the skeleton of a genuinely great story and fun adventure hidden inside it that feeds off the events and arcs of the original, which truly kicks into gear once the film draws focus to its themes of leadership and growth and looking past prejudices. And this is never more present than when Orm and Arthur go off together on their roguelike adventure to find Black Manta. A lot of you know I'm a big fan of anime. It's one of the reasons why I love the original Aquaman so much. It celebrates being this over-the-top anime in live action, and Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom is no different. From the quests to the overall adventure, the vistas, landscapes, and creatures they find along the way, and most importantly, the banter between brothers, where there's so much to unpack, so much for the actors to work with, and thanks to the chemistry between Wilson and Momoa, they make this messy, at times exposition-driven, swashbuckling adventure soar from the second act onwards. The action is phenomenal too, thanks to James Wan's incredible eye for magnificent camera work. And while there isn't enough of the high-octane, camera-sweeping, anime-style blast and hand-to-hand combat set pieces, when it's there on screen, particularly a fight between two characters in the third act, it is just as good, if not better, than the original. I was having a blast whenever this film dove into just being completely over the top and ridiculous and showcasing the powers and magic and mysticism and all the lore of Atlantis. The action has always been the best part of the Aquaman movies. Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom is no different because now it is carried by that relationship, that dynamic at the core of this film between Orm and Arthur, who have easily the best arcs in the entire film. Mostly because a lot of the other characters don't have much to work with, from Dr. Shin to the elephant in the room, Mera. A lot of these characters are here to service the plot, and that is it. Look, I love Mera in the first film. I think the character is great. I think Amber Heard acts the shit out of that role, and I just love her powers on screen, how James Wan visualizes them. It is so badass, and in here, it's the exact same. Her powers are excellent. Amber Heard is awful in this film, and she is in quite a bit of this film. I don't know what they removed, what they added, if they did anything because of the whole Johnny Depp situation. But she serviced the plot while being in the film quite a bit, but her performance is very stifled. It is very noticeable. She is one of the performances that really drags this movie down. Performances that drag this movie up is that Black Manta's entire team is Portuguese. His second in command in this film had this strange accent where I could tell her first language wasn't English, and at one point she speaks Portuguese, and I'm like, the accent makes sense. So I just love how the DCU keeps having prominent Portuguese characters speaking actual Portuguese on screen. James Gunn, I'm available for the DCU. I have never been in one of these films. Just cast me, please. Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom has such a strangely collaged plot with countless unnecessary threads that either don't really matter or simply exist to serve the plot at one point and disappear. I have no issues. I have no arguments for anyone or everyone who might watch this film and say it's terrible and truly the death of the DCU, and there's a mid-credit scene that is an absolute waste of time, and just know that mid-credit scene is the last shot of the DCU. That is its legacy. It is truly terrible. In a year where the DCU's last post-credit scenes in each of their films have all been truly terrible. However, whenever James Wan draws focus to the lighthearted brotherly banter and live-action anime-style visuals and set pieces, it is a vastly entertaining and overall enjoyable adventure that keeps the tonal and grandiose integrity of the original, riddled with issues like I mentioned, and perhaps even more so. But to me, the tide was in its favor. So, with that out of the way, and before I dive into my final thoughts on Aquaman the Lost Kingdom, as we bid fare thee well to the DCU, it's time for you to start the conversation about it in the comments below. Your excitement, your thoughts on the Aquaman the Lost Kingdom. What is your favorite DCU film? And here's plenty more of my DCU reviews. Also, if you're enjoying this review and want to talk more movies and TV with me, this is the place to be. Consider clicking that subscribe button and you won't miss any future conversations on your favorite movies and TV. Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom might be the most unpolished movie of the year, but Arthur and Norm's dynamic compels and excites as much as James Wan's over-the-top anime-style sensibilities. This rough around the edges, high seas, and deep oceans adventure won't be anyone's favorite superhero movie, Aquaman movie, or even DCU movie, but for me, its positives ultimately bring it ashore. I'm giving Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom a B-. Thank you so much for watching, my film family, my fellow DC fans. Start the conversation in the comments below with your favorite DCU memories. Big shout out to my channel members for always supporting the channel, and I'll be back very soon with more reviews for The Promised Land, The Iron Claw, and very soon the end of year lists. I'll see you there, so until then, love each other and love the movies.